So, back to normal for the Kentucky Derby, with one big exception, which we'll get to shortly. But first things first, let's try to answer the questions that can be answered. In the tables that follow, a top is defined as more than 1 point faster than the previous top. A pair is defined as within 1 point either way of the previous top. An off race is more than 1 through 4 points worse than that top. And an X is more than 4 points worse. We did not use the 2020 Derby in any of our studies because it was run in September. So first of all, it's worth remembering that most Derby runners, despite all the talk of how great they are training, will not run their race. About 2/3 run off races or X's. Only 2 or 3 a year run new tops, and some of those are too slow to matter. Which means that with a few notable exceptions like Mind That Bird, you want a horse that is already fast enough to be competitive. In terms of number of starts as a 3-year-old, less is more. And we're not the only ones that have noticed. Far more horses are coming in with only 2 preps these days, and almost none with 4 or more. 2 preps produces the most new tops, but 3 preps produces about the same percentage of combined new and paired tops. The 2 patterns that have produced good performances in the Derby are coming in off a pair of tops and coming in off a small new top. Both of those patterns have yielded over 40% new or paired tops. Every other pattern has produced terrible results, including those coming in following bigger tops. Most of those run X's. The other thing that turns out to be significant is the amount of development from the horse's 2-year-old top to his 3-year-old top going into the Derby. Horses that have already developed more than 4 points almost never run new tops in the Derby. Finally, there is the unknown variable. They're not allowing Lasix in this year's Derby, and we don't even know what the questions are yet, let alone the answers. If a horse didn't bleed without Lasix last time, does it mean he won't bleed this time? If he ran poorly, does it mean he did bleed? We have no way of knowing. So for the most part, we're going to ignore the whole Lasix question. Hopefully the industry will come to its senses soon. As always, the Derby has a huge field, with many of these within about a 3 Thoro-Graph point range, which means ground loss will be a major factor. Bourbonic had a very slow 2-year-old top, improved slightly over the winter, then exploded last time to win the Wood. With 8 points of development coming off a 6-point top, which isn't fast enough to hit the board, even if he repeats it, this is exactly the kind you want in the Derby not. Brooklyn Strong worked his way down to a good top late last year. He was sick early this year, so his first prep came in the Wood, and it wasn't great. But because he was sick, there's every reason to think that non-effort wasn't a true build. So it's not impossible this guy could throw a new top now that he's older and theoretically stronger. It's unlikely he can run fast enough to be a win threat, but getting a check is not impossible. Dynamic One didn't even start till November, then ran a big one while stretched out at the end of the year. He bounced, but then got right back to his top. He broke through in the Wood, earning a much better figure than the winner due to a wide trip. This guy looks like a classic late developer. He's only had 3 points of development, and the recent 3-point new top is on the edge of acceptable. We think this colt will at least pair up and could go forward again. He's a very live long shot, but he has to avoid a wide trip. Essential Quality established a strong 2-year-old top, and in his 2 starts this year, earned the 2 best figures anyone in the race has ever run. This colt checks all the boxes. 2 preps, pair of tops, and fast enough to win without a new top. He's definitely deserving favorite. There are tops and there are tops. Helium's only race this year was a 5-point new top and was somewhat concealed by a very wide trip. But he only raced twice last year, both in sprints and both on synthetic, So we really don't know what the figure means to him. He's in range, and he's had 8 weeks to recover. He's a usable long shot. Hidden Stash got down to a decent figure against Helium at Tampa, but we don't like the backward move last time. The new top he needs is unlikely off this pattern. The second horse that checks all the boxes is highly motivated. After throwing a big figure sprinting at Keeneland last fall, he paired it over a one-turn mile in the Gotham, then went forward a little going 2 turns for the first time. Moderate development, 2 preps, good pattern, one of the fastest going in. Check, 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 check. Hot Rod Charlie improved when blinkers were added last October, then jumped forward again in the Breeders' Cup at a huge price. He paired that effort in his first start this year, and if he had gone forward last time, he would have been another set up perfectly for the Derby. But he did not. He only won the Louisiana Derby by saving ground on the lead, and didn't come close to earning the best figure in the race, which leaves this horse in the twilight zone. 2 preps, check. Paired up tops, check. But no development this year, and he'd need at least a 2-point top to be a serious factor. He might do that, and he might not. And he's either short enough or long enough to have a real opinion about. It's tough to like a horse that has both slow figures and a bad pattern. And Keep Me in Mind qualifies on both counts. He's not for us. It's interesting to compare King Fury with Helium. Both had an 8 top last year, and both came out with the same 5-point new top. But King Fury had 5 tries on dirt and going long. He clearly established his baseline level, which Helium did not. He also has only 3 weeks rest now, which makes him more likely to bounce and will be a shorter price. King Fury is out of a very fast mare and may well turn out to be a top racehorse, but we can't like him here. Known Agenda got down to a strong top in his second start before running 2 stinkers. At that point, Pletcher added blinkers, and this colt immediately responded with a new top followed by another to take the Florida Derby. How you handicap this horse is entirely a function of how seriously you take the 2 bad ones before the blinkers went on. If you white out those non-efforts, you have a horse with moderate development and a good pattern who is fast enough to win and has 5 weeks rest. Wesley Ward has been doing pretty well recently, but we're not sure 1.25 miles is his thing. And if he pulls it off with Like the King, he's a miracle worker. The colt is slow and has already developed a lot. Mandaloon established a decent top sprinting last year and continued moving forward in 2 route tries over the winter. That pattern of gradual development was almost sure to produce another good win in the Louisiana Derby and set him up for Kentucky, but he backed up through the field. Did he bleed? Don't know. If so, will he be treated with something other than Lasix this time, or are they just hoping he doesn't bleed? Don't know. And that's a problem. If you ignore that last one, Mandaloon has a good pattern and is borderline competitive on number power. He's also working very well. Welcome to handicapping without Lasix. Medina Spirit cost just a little less than Baffert's babies usually do, but as soon as he was stretched out, he started pounding out good figures. In his last, he raced wide and actually earned almost the same figure as the winner, who saved ground. We don't love the 4 preps, and he's only a borderline fit in ability, but there are a couple of other things to consider. On the plus side, a lot of Baffert runners move forward when they leave California. But this guy's been getting wide trips in small fields. That could be a real issue in a huge field. Catch the Moon had 3 foals prior to Midnight Bourbon, and all of them got very good as they got older. This colt looks like the same kind. He got down to a moderate top last year and paired it, ran a new top in January and paired it, then earned a better figure than the winner in the Louisiana Derby. It's not impossible that he will move forward again immediately, but with 5 points of development already, we think another pair up is much more likely, which leaves him a possibility for a minor check and definitely a horse to watch out for down the line. Obesos is another that earned a better figure than the winner in the Louisiana Derby, but that effort was a big new top. He's a lot more likely to bounce than go forward, and even if he can pair up, it probably won't do much good. Rock Your World ran okay winning 2 grass races, then jumped way forward on dirt. That race wasn't as good as it looked. He saved ground and didn't earn that big a figure. Horses that explode first-time dirt almost never immediately go forward again and usually bounce. As an undefeated Grade 1 winner, Rock Your World will get bet, and we do not think he will run well. Sainthood moved forward to a moderate figure last time on synthetic. He's not fast enough to compete here, and we think his future is on grass. Soup and Sandwich ran moderate figures in his first 2, then jumped way forward in the Florida Derby, earning basically the same figure as Known Agenda once we accounted for ground loss. If you reverse their trips, this colt would be coming in as an undefeated Grade 1 winner, would be a short price, and we'd be playing him to bounce. But he won't be a short price, and he's one of the faster horses. So even though we don't like the pattern, we might use him a little bit. One horse who clearly established his level as a 2-year-old is Superstock. This colt got a great trip to win the Arkansas Derby with a moderate figure, and that figure already represents 6 points of development. It's not just where you are, it's how you got there. And in just 3 weeks rest, we think a bounce is likely. So as usual, we're going to divide the Derby field into groups. The D group contains horses we can't use at all, even underneath. They are too slow, don't figure to run their race, or both. As it happens, they are the winners of 4 final round prep races in this group, including Rock Your World. The others are Superstock, Like the King, and Bourbonic, as well as Sainthood, Obesos, King Fury, Keep Me in Mind, and Hidden Stash. Next comes those that are likely to put in a good effort, but aren't good enough to win, and can only be used underneath in exotics. The C group contains Hot Rod Charlie, Midnight Bourbon, and Brooklyn Strong, who is something of a wild card. The B group has horses that have some chance to win, either because they've already run fast enough to contend, or because they have upside. They are already in range and could run a new top. We put Soup and Sandwich in this group because he's run fast enough and will be a price, but we don't like his pattern and may not use him. Helium and Mandaloon both could run new tops, and Medina Spirit is within range and is Baffert. He does have a real quiet kind of a feel to him. The A group contains the 4 most likely winners of this year's Derby. 2 of them are trained by Pletcher. Known Agenda and Dynamic One are both already fast enough to have a shot and are moving forward. They are must-uses. And finally, there are the 2 that check all the boxes: Essential Quality and Highly Motivated. So the bottom line is, they changed starting gates to the Derby last fall, and that has ramifications, because a new one takes up less room, and they could move it further out, making for less chance of the inside horses getting jammed before they get to where the rail starts. Between the new setup and IRAD, we think the inside draw will be a plus for Known Agenda, not a minus. Both Chad Brown and Castellano are extremely conscious of saving ground, but with others having a similar running style, Highly Motivated probably won't make it close to the rail from out there and will have to work out a decent trip. Medina Spirit did great, drawing inside the other speed, but whether Velasquez will take the rail if it's available is an open question. We were on the fence about Soup and Sandwich already, and the draw convinced us to move him into the C group. And finally, Essential Quality will probably lose some ground going around horses from out there, which might erode some of his edge on number power. It's possible he could run the best figure and lose to a horse who gets through inside. So overall, after the draw, we still end up liking the same horses, maybe liking the 2 Pletchers a little more than before. We're looking at exotics using the A horses heavy, the B horses lighter, and the C is only for 3rd or lower.